Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of the RoadFS DetailBookie Podcast. It is colder than anyway, I don't
it's
know. No, it's cold.
It's
That's
diamonds.
why, and
Diamonds.
That's
Diamonds,
baby.
glass. It is. We have a heater on the wall, and it's still cold.
Rod's always chiding me for wearing a t-shirt, and dude, I'm like sweatshirted up and everything. So, guys, we are super excited. We have the dynamic duo, Mike Carlin and Dustin Jackson. These guys are some of the biggest movers and shakers in the industry. So we thought we'd invite them to talk about all things detailing. So how are you guys?
Oh, doing good, man. Thanks for having us on. I don't think I've paid much attention to the intro. That intro, and maybe it's new. But dude, I love the intro, dude. That is sweet. That is sweet.
Yeah, we started. We have so many different videos and photos and stuff throughout the years that we just started creating. We have
and we go to so many events.
9 of them from last year that we're just, we cycle through them. So it's been a busy year. We got 2 or 3 podcasts left for the entire year. And this has been, I know you guys have been just all over the place, and Jody and I have too. It's been a huge year for you guys. So how is the APEX, IGL, all that stuff going, man?
Go ahead, Mike.
Is this where I blink? Is this where I blink twice if I?
Yeah, blink twice if you need help, Mike. Come on.
Go ahead, Mike.
So no, it's been good. I think we said this about 2 years ago almost. Jeff and Joe built a really good business with IGL, and last year was a learning year, and going into this year was a learning year, and we just finally really got to that point. We've been making adjustments for 1.5 years. We just finally got to that point about 4 or 5 months ago, between the team we put together, the individuals we brought on, that we just feel the momentum really catching on now. And it was really cool because we have our staff meetings and everything weekly and sometimes daily, and to hear some of our staff tell us that this is the best they've ever felt about a team that they've worked for. And I mean, they were genuinely serious about it. It's that was because we always start every meeting with wins and, what's our win for today? And it just happened hey, what's some things we're thankful for at the end of the night? We have a group chat and we just kind of, what are you thankful for tonight? And to hear that come out of their mouths, it was just amazing. So it's been a learning curve, but at the same time, we can finally feel it on the IGL side. APEX side, again, bringing on some additions there. We're gearing up for a very busy 2026.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I think that is, people accept that what you just said in certain situations, but I don't think people transfer that over to business. Right? You watch a college football team, and you'll have a building year, or in some cases a decade, but you have these transitional years where things happen, and everybody kind of accepts that. You go, you know what? I'm still a fan. We're going to watch them because, by God, I'm loyal to this team, and there's a building year. 2 years from now, that kid's going to be great. And I don't think people accept that. And one of the things that, regardless of where you're at, you guys had a really good company that you brought on, and you guys purchased it, but now it's yours, and there's going to be bumps. It's the same thing we did with DetailBookie.
Yes. Yep.
And great product, great people. This guy that started DetailBookie, man, I mean, he had a vision. It was awesome.
He's all right.
But I think the thing is now we're looking at things that their dynamics there, and it's crazy. And then not a lot of people know this about Jody and I, but we have other products in other industries. We have a farming product that's food, that's a field to table app, and then we purchased a medical app for bariatric medicine.
October.
Oh my gosh!
So now we have 4 products, and my head is about to explode. But the thing about that is the learning and everything, you get re-energized and excited. We got some customers that were long-term customers on DetailBookie, and we're doing some special stuff for them, and they are they are really excited. They're like, man, I loved the product before, but this is just going to be awesome. And we're so glad you guys continued this on. And I think that is one of the greatest things about the position that all of us four are in, is we took a great product and we're continuing it on. We're going to that next level.
Yeah. Speaking to DetailBookie specifically, we're a customer. EZN is a customer, and we've had some conversations offline about things that are coming, and we are so excited, and all the changes that have been made since then. It's like every time I see something, I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. This is it lights my world up, because I just know where you guys had the capabilities of taking it. I had reached my point of I couldn't get it where it needed to go, but I knew where it wanted to go. Where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and look out for Mobile Tech Expo. We have new features coming for DetailBookie.
Fantastic.
We have a new major feature in RoadFS, and our poor developers, man, they're over there typing away as fast as they can, and Rod
fingers are melted
coming
off
up with new ideas, and it's crazy.
So you guys, one of the things is, I mean, let's go back a couple of years. Jody and I were already big fans. We'd been to Mike's shop. We did an Aegis training in the middle of
the cold
in the snowstorm, but we really enjoyed it. And last night I was actually on a forum where I was asking a question of somebody else that's an installer, because I have a similar situation in my own personal shop where they had a Jeep Gladiator up on a lift, and they had sprayed the bottom. And I asked a question. I said, what do you do once it's down? How do you fill in those gaps where your lift was touching it? Yeah. And so, the thing is that is such an amazing product. I've watched a bunch of different videos on people with, black pipe, putting it in a bucket, putting it in with Aegis in there, and then watching it go. So where do you guys see that industry? Because I see that as a totally different industry. Where do you see that going in the next couple of years with you guys?
Yeah, that industry, I mean, obviously it's always going to be there for the detailer, but it's getting a lot more of a traction with other types of industries, whether it be the manufacturing industry, the automotive manufacturing, to implement, to all that type of stuff. So it's DOD, a lot of different things that it's gaining some attraction with over the last couple of years. And it's always going to be there for the detailer too, for the pivoting of a business. It's we're pretty honest with that product. Like, it's not for everybody. Right. If you saw at the shop, like, there is, I have to mask everything off when I spray. If you're not, or get everything out of your shop, so if you're not in that type of position, it's not for everybody. But the guys that are using it, they're taking off. And the big thing is right now, Midwest, or even in your area, like lots of salt, lots of cold. And that's where this week we literally got a shipment and it sold out, and our other shipment, we're tracking it down because it's lost somewhere. Like, so.
Yeah. Well, and this is the time of the year when people actually start to think about it, which is, it's amazing. Yeah. It's human nature, but when it's cold, people go, oh, I should probably do something to protect that. When, 3.5, 4 months ago would have been a perfect time to spray it. And that's, I think, something that all of us get into, right? I mean, we think about this stuff when it's too late or almost too late, right? And that's where people bring a car in and, oh my gosh, who was it the other day? I think it was somebody posted a picture of this black car, and it was one of the Parker brothers. And I mean, this thing looked like somebody had taken a burlap sack and cleaned it. Oh, it was so bad. And they made a little tiny square in the hood, and it wasn't a 50-50. It was like, take it to the crusher and perfect, right? And so I put out there, I said, it looks like somebody needs to be arrested for assault on a vehicle. So this is,
I think about the marine industry too. So it's very similar in the marine industry, right? Boats, they don't want to spend money on boats right now, December, January, February, but then they all rush in here in March, like it's something new that they want to get their boat detailed, and it causes this major backup. And so if we could just train our customers in the Midwest, if you could train them to do their undercoatings in, September, October, or even earlier, and then if in the marine industry, if we could train them to do it in November, December, January, we could extend that line on out or flatten that curve, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So have you had success in training your customers and conditioning them to do that, because that's one of the things that, we see detailers struggle across the states, especially the northern sector. Yeah. It's like, it's always too late. So how have you, if you've been able to, how have you conditioned your customers to do that?
Yep. Proactive scheduling. I mean, really being in tune with your customer base and knowing what's coming. So like our restoration jobs in the marine speaking specifically to the marine side, like when we got a sand and polish one, where we may be working on a boat for a week, right? We want those boats in the off season. We don't want to in March, April, May, when the new boats are rolling in to get coated, because everybody buying, going to the boat shows, get new boats. They want them coated. We want to keep that time kind of isolated to that and our top coats and maintenance customers, right? That's not a time to tie up a bay for a week or two on one boat. So we're really watching the types of jobs that are coming in and when we are proactively scheduling those into those times. So, it sounds great and it looks good on paper, but it's a work in progress always.
So one of the coolest things about that though is if say this so I want to try to say this right. If you are in tune with your customers and you're doing what you need to do as a business owner, you have educated them so that you say, hey, we're going to schedule you at these 2 times in the year, right? Mike from Mike's Marine Care does a really good job of this hey, it's time to wrap your boat. I'm going to pre-schedule. And if you're not on that schedule, you're not in, right? So, and then the springtime comes, it's time to unwrap the boat, go in there, make sure there's no mildew or anything from the months past, clean everything up, get that fuel smell out of there, because there's still fuel in the boat. Even though you're going to put stable in it, you're going to do everything you can, you're still going to go in there and fix stuff. But I think that's a matter of educating your customers. And I think that's the cool part. Like Jody and I, the intro that you just saw was us in Jacksonville. And one of those real clips, there's Jody polishing on a boat, which by the way, Jody's a really good rotary polisher on a boat.
Really?
I talk to him all the time about polishing cars and stuff, but this guy can polish a boat.
See, I wish I could give Mike credit like that, but he's really not good at anything. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm always better than him.
Boats are forgiving. That's the thing.
I'm always better.
Forgiving.
Yeah. But that's the thing is we're sanding down that boat. It's a black boat. It wasn't black. It was gray when we got there.
Yeah.
But it was the right time to do it. It was not going into, hey, it's the season. We got to get going. But I think that's the whole point with detailers is we see so many of these people that they go online and they're watching somebody else and they're saying, that's how I need to be, right? If I wanted to follow a Mike Carlin or a Dustin Jackson and be like, I want to be just like those guys. The problem is I don't live in Alabama or Wisconsin. I live in Idaho. I got a different market. We put a different slurry on the roads in the winter, and it's nasty. It's this purpley brine. I mean, you could just feel it eating through the bottom of
your or some weird name. I don't know.
So the key to that is educating the clients here that you need to get that cleaned off of your vehicle, even though it's winter and you don't want me detailing your car. Bring it in. Let's spray that stuff off. Get something on there to protect your vehicle for the winter. And then as soon as the snow stops flying, get your car in here and let's get you taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, some of that too, I think, is the fact that a lot of detailers, and we've all been guilty of this at one time, is we wait until we're slow and we need business. So you're not being proactive. You're not thinking about, like, a lot of my detailers I look at and it's like you're now just promoting the undercoating, right? Which is fine, but now we're in the middle of winter. Not saying you can do it in the summer, but you could have did that schedule, right? You could have been proactive, but you're waiting and now it's like, hey, it's December and I don't have any work on the schedule. You could have been.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday I was talking to Tommy Trenton Jr. and we were just talking about marketing and building business and stuff. He goes, I've actually the last week during Thanksgiving, he goes, I built 36 ads that I'm programming to start on January 1, right? Yep. I've been spending the last 2 weeks using a combination of tools to build a marketing plan for 2026, right? Actually, end of year 2025 into 2026. And I think one of the things that we as business owners need to do a better job is do more of that strategic planning and setting goals and moving forward, right? Because Rod and I write it on the whiteboard, right? And we're trying to be more disciplined about actually setting up plans to be more strategic. And dude, when you do that, all of a sudden it's on automation.
Yeah. And I think, again, I don't know why today's the football analogies, but let's go back to another football analogy. Every one of us has watched some kind of a sporting event where there's quarters or there's halves or whatever, and we'll watch a team just suck, right? The first quarter, they're getting blown out. And the second quarter, it's starting to happen again. And every one of us goes, change the plan. The plan ain't working. You run, and you're getting your butts kicked. Change the plan. But we as business owners will sit there and do the same thing over and over. And then all of a sudden something will happen and we'll go, why is this happening? We try to look at it a quarter at a time. Partially because our attention span is that short.
But we usually do daily.
Mine's shorter.
Ours happens hourly for mine.
You gotta be able to have realistic.
That's as far as I can go.
You got to have measurable goals that you can look at. And the thing is I did not have any idea this until we got into couple of years into owning this company, that I go in, I'm in the books every single day. I am logging in, I'm seeing where we're at, what's happening, who isn't using the system. Let's get a hold of them. Let's find out if we can help them. There's Mr. Mike right there. And I think that's the key, is taking a look at the business. And if you are not good at that,
that's right, baby.
Prep for spring. There you go. April's already booked.
That's right.
If you are not good at that, you need to get somebody that is. You need to make sure your role in the company is where it's supposed to be. If I'm working in Mike Carlin's shop and I'm really good at spraying, that's where I need to be.
That's
if
right.
I suck at keeping the bathroom clean, get somebody else to clean the bathroom.
Yeah. Well,
So
the planning is the hard part. It really is, and it requires the most sit down and think through things, and it's not reactionary. It's easy to be reactionary. It's easy to try to react to problems, but you're always playing a little bit from behind. If you can press pause and say, okay, we've got to plan some things. We've got to talk about what's going to happen in the future and make a plan. You can start to control some of that. Or dictate some of your destiny in a sense. And so that pause button is hard for an owner operator when it's just them. And it's like, man, I wake up and I'm supposed to detail all day. And then I got to go home and do marketing and sell and collections and all that stuff. And so, there's value in those slow times at the end of the year where you may have a day or two, like Tommy probably had, to sit down and crank through some ads, but making use of that slow time to actually plan your year.
Yeah.
Or your quarter, or,
Right. Well, the other thing is the pivot, right? Everybody talks about a pivot, but most people do the pivot when it's too late.
Yeah, right.
Crap, I don't have enough money for payroll. I better pivot. Nope, too late. And that's what I love about some of the products that are coming out, because if I were living in a city like Boise, Idaho, where it gets cold and there's snow on the ground, and I had a detailing business, I would also have a business going into homes and ceramic coating countertops and shower doors.
Especially here with the construction.
I would have a separate LLC underneath my main company, and I would be doing those in-home things because of two reasons. One, people think about it. They're in the house more often in the winter. You can still do the services. It's warm, and it's a whole different industry to go after. Years ago, Jody and I met a young guy in Florida, and he had two separate business names. It was just him and his wife. He had a detailing business, but he also had a power washing business, and he could supplement each one with the other. So some days he was just pressure washing some concrete because it had oil on it. Other days he's doing other stuff. I mean, it's there you go.
I know. Preach it, Rod. Preach it.
The serpent.
Saying the serpent.
7 heads. Anyway, that is the thing, is pivot before it's too late. You've got to think about that stuff, man.
Yeah. I think paying attention to your numbers and understanding a little bit more than watching the checking account, right? So like you got to come out of that zone and understand the seasonality and when to expect the slow time. If you're watching the checking account, and operating off of that, it is reactionary. It is always up and down, and there's hard to build consistency. But if you have a plan and you can say, okay, this is what I did month over month last year, right? And that's pretty simple report to run a month over month report. Now I can see, okay, this is when it's going to get slow. So if I want to bring in something like coding into, residential, coding interior of houses, I should probably, thinking about the Midwest, do it in November, December, January, where you guys are kind of shut down for that period of time. Like, and you can make that decision, an educated decision there based on your numbers. And so you're not in the springtime trying to manage both or getting pulled at all ends. You can really kind of supplement that income there in the slow time and say, this is when I open this up,
Yeah. And I think that's the key, is knowing your area, knowing your environment, and knowing when to look out. Like Mike was just saying, if I know I'm going to be doing a bunch of RVs in the spring in Idaho, we're 2 hours from the mountains of over 4,000 feet above sea level, beautiful mountains, on about April 15th,
April 1st,
the RVs come out of the woodwork. And so you start, but you can't wait till then to advertise. You need to advertise now through the end of March and say, hey, come in and get your RV detailed and get it undercoated and get the protection on it you need. And I'm booking now for March 15th, and get people coming in so you can pre-book, get those pre-orders, get the gift certificates, get hey, if you go in and pay part of it down now, you save 10%. That kind of stuff, I think, can help carry people through the slow times when it's the middle of the winter and there's salt on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Kim.
So you guys have quite the lineup of products that a detailer can bring into their shop. Do you want to kind of talk about those different components and maybe how they could attack the market?
Yeah. So, I mean, we do, we have a very large selection, everything from coatings to auxiliary coatings to all the prep and cleaning supplies. And what we really did is we attacked each market with them products, right? Because, all substrates are different, and, a lot of people can say, hey, I can put this ceramic on X, Y, and Z, and it's not necessarily going to hurt it, but a lot of time longevity isn't going to last just because of the substrate is different. So the coatings that we came up with were specific to the substrates, and that's what Kyung and his team really designed for us. And then going into industrial, we made a coating that was not just a paint coating that worked well with industrial. We made an industrial coating. We always had Eclipse, and we always had, and then we brought in Ages. And then since then we brought in another product called Mithril, which is another industrial coating, which is more of a, if anybody's used Eclipse out there, they know that their elbows probably get sore if they want to level. Eclipse is a good spray and leave it. Mithril is a more chemical resistant, more heat resistant than Eclipse, but it's a hand apply. So we just kind of attack different markets differently based off the feedback that we get. And I think that helps because, and there's other companies out there that have the same ability, but like with us owning detail shops, right? Like we're in the trenches all the time. Like we see what our employees are dealing with. We deal with it ourselves. And then our reps, 90% of them are owning detail shops too, right? So it's the design of the product was really thought out, and so that product line, I used to, and I won't mention, I used to actually work for another ceramic company years ago, and it was a good coating. The only reason I left is because as a rep, I had no ability to sell them on maintenance products, on cleaning products. We didn't have that. We had a ceramic coating, and we had a detail spray, but I didn't have a wash. I didn't have a iron decon. I didn't have a polish. I didn't have anything to sell or for my detail shop to run, because if I'm the type of person, for the most part, I want to be all in on a company. I'm not saying that you can't use multiple companies, but I want to use a system that was designed to work with one another. And that's really what we did.
And it's nice to be able to go to one place and kind of get what you need, where you're not going all over the place. I think about, my shop and, who buys for our shop. Like if I have to send them 100 different places to buy, it makes it difficult. Right. And we're, how do we know that, we're being the most effective that way? And so IGL has done a really good job of having a complete lineup from start to finish. So that way we can, send them to one place and you can get what you need and then go on about your business. You're not jumping around to 3 or 4 different sites and trying to figure out, where you get what from. I think that Mike and I adopted that from Joel and Jeff. And Keong's done a really, really good job of building a solid product line. It's funny, we're talking about this. Mike and I and the team went through our entire product list line item or, item by item yesterday and really wanted to fine tune inventory levels and what's needed. And then what, some of the slow movers, why are they slow moving? If they, do we need to get better marketing behind it or what? So this is probably near and dear to both of our hearts right now because we spent painstakingly day going product by product yesterday.
Yeah.
So we can tell you all about it right now.
Well, I think that's important to do every once in a while too, is because if you've got 50 products, and one of them is literally like, well, we barely break even on it. And it's not, it's something you either have to put it on the shelf or you have to resurge it. I know some other product companies that had products that they had put on the back burner because they didn't think they were big sellers. And all it needed was some fresh marketing and a different way to look at it. And man, they're back in business with it. And I think that is every business.
Yeah, I'll put in like perspective for my detail shop. Like we recently stopped doing windshield chip repair. And because like, okay, when we adopted, we're like, oh, that's an easy $50. You do it while car's getting detailed. But what happened was we had one guy in the shop that could do it. He's over there doing let's just call $2,000 coating. And we're going to pull him off for an hour to go do $50. Like that's a misuse of his time. And that's a product we don't need to sell.
Right.
And so it sounds good in theory. And you have that extra, well, we want to squeeze this sponge. We want to get everything. If a car has a chipped windshield, we want to be able to fix that. But really, is it the most profitable thing for us to be doing, or is it the most efficient thing for us to be doing? Even, and so you have to, as a coating company or as a distributor and manufacturer, we have to look at products that says, are these things moving? Is this relevant in our industry? And is it our fault if it's not? Are we not marketing it correctly, or is it just something that's redundant? Maybe we have two products that do very similar things, and we can say, hey, we're essentially just splitting sales for two products when we could bring it into one. And there was some deep, passionate conversations because Mike wants to keep everything.
Well, I think that's everybody, right?
That's an important thing. Sometimes we mentally and emotionally get so wrapped up in a previous decision that it's hard to break it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you feel a betrayal to yourself.
We've had those conversations, but I think the key to that is new information. You need to be able to adapt to it, right?
Yes.
If you've got 4 coatings and 2 of them are real close, why do you have those? And I think that is one of those things that a lot of companies don't want to look at, right? It's like, hey, we need to be able to sunset something and say this is a better product. So you guys IGL has always been really good at innovation. And the other thing that people complain about that I want you guys to be able to address, because now you guys are hard into it. You know what it takes. You even mentioned it earlier, is people are always pissed in the United States. Why can't I get product? Why are you guys always out of product? Mm-hmm. The point is, and I'm going to speak for product companies in general, is you either have to have a massive warehouse and have all this product all the time, but you got to turn it because there's a shelf life. So the things, if you've never heard the terms FIFO or LIFO, you don't know what it's about. And that means you've got to be able to rotate product. Think about it like a C-store, right? And you got a product on the shelf and you put the oldest stuff first so that it rotates out and you don't ever expire. And I think people don't understand some of the limitations of having you got to have a whole container. It's got to come across the ocean. So tell us what you guys are doing to, because like you mentioned it earlier,
combat
you just got
that
a thing,
beast.
it's sold out, you got another one on the way.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that whole meeting was about yesterday. Because when we bring in a new product, ultimately what the first thing we do is we try it with 500 mil first, right? Because let's get it in your hands. let's not bring in 5 liters or whatever at that point. And there's also a time you got to give it some time to gain attraction too, right? You have to be able to go out there and educate the people. And so it's a really touchy, Dustin said there was some passionate conversations yesterday because it takes a little bit for some things to launch to. And then you have to remember, like, okay, I brought this many in, it sold this much. And then maybe we didn't have it for a week or two, so it skews your numbers, or we didn't put the advertising behind it. So that was all of that. That was yesterday's conversation, and it was a very, very good meeting. When we're like, wow, we got more accomplished yesterday. Honestly, I feel as a team, we got more accomplished than probably the whole year.
I'll put it in perspective for detailers. Okay. You know how if you run out of product in 1 week and you make a phone call or you go online and you order it and you get it in 3 days, it takes us about 5 months to get product here. So if we have sales, that unexpected sales in a certain product, it takes 5 months to replenish that sale. I mean, from the order to the time it hits our warehouse. And so we've owned this business for 1.5 years now. Joel and Jeff did what all good business owners would do, and they sold some product right before they sold it to us. They tried to sell as much as they possibly could, rightfully so. So that gives us about 16, and then that's not a shot at them. Those guys are great guys. They help us, like they're friends of ours. They help us. I love them to death. But that gives us, so we've been chasing goods, trying to replenish stock as they're selling, and as soon as it hits, it sells. Which is a great thing. Then it's exacerbated by tariffs, the onset of tariffs, which has slowed the shipping channels down. We had strikes last year. We've had some missing containers. Like, you want to talk about anything and everything, and that's why I'm going to say, like, it ain't easy. Detailers know how hard it is to keep coatings like lined up for their vehicles for that week or two, because I'm a detailer too. I know what we keep on the shelves, and I know when we start to run low, we pick up the phone or we get on the website and order and call. Imagine that, but imagine having to predict it for 5 months from now.
Yeah. Right.
And that's tariffs throw you a curve.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why I'm a hoarder.
Right. Yeah. And then that's then you got people that are ordering more than they normally would because they want to make sure they have stock. So then the sales are, to address it, like, we're learning and just like, I know you get the calls on the software where this button should be blue or red and I don't want to use you anymore because it's not there, or this button should be moved here. And you're like, all you got to do is just move the button. Yeah. Well, all we got to do is order more product. Right. And that's the truth. But there's a process to
there's a process.
Yeah.
So let's go to the comments. So we got
a bunch of stuff up
Joel
here.
Said, hold on, why is my stupid mind? Do I have it upside down? No, I don't know what it's like.
But there's comments are upside down.
All right. So if you guys want to change that, buy domestic. Hit us up anytime. Who the heck's this guy?
Now he looks familiar. I think, was he Underdog?
Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah, he had some good connections with IGL back in the day, I believe.
There you go. And Paolo, of course, says hello.
Oh, man. Who doesn't love Paolo?
He said, I found RV market is best hit in September when they're putting them away dirty and it's fresh in their mind. And I had experience with that this year because my wife's good friend, her and her husband, they bought 5 RVs that they rented all summer. And at the end of the summer, they called us up and said, hey, we need to clean these up. What's it going to cost? So my son had a little project, and so I definitely would hit. And then one last one. Thank you, Dustin. People don't realize that part about the extras.
Yeah, and I think that's funny because I wanted to say one more thing about the extras. There is a lot of people, these add-ons, they're great. Add-ons are great. I get it, right? But if you've got a $25 or a $50 add-on and you're like, hey, I'll polish your taillights for $50 extra bucks. Well, if they say no because it's more money, now you got to tape the taillights off. And I always tell people I pick on taillights because I never tape them off. I just polish them. And then at the end of that, you can say, hey, by the way, I went ahead and polished your taillights. They looked a little dingy. And now you have solidified a customer because you went a little extra. Yeah. But actually what it is, it saved your guys time. You don't have to pay them to tape off the taillights on a car that are going to be this big, and you're going to polish them anyway.
Yeah, and those added value things along the way, that little bit of extra goes such a long way in sanctifying the customer relationship. We always look for something to do a little extra in the shop, because like that and then just inevitably, right? Customer's going to overlook, it's going to look at everything. And then if you've done a little extra, they're more inclined to make sure they're working with you through the checkout process. And, it don't turn into the nightmare checkout, hey, I've done this. Oh, well, you can touch this up, whatever. And you've built that relationship off of that, and I'm not saying you do a bunch of work for free, but those little added value things are hard to beat,
Yeah. There's certain things you got to make sure. And Kirk Evans, Kirk Evans is a good friend of ours, and he always says this, and it just stuck with me, is your shop or your particular business is like Burger King, right? You have your services, you have your menu. People have those expectations. If I go to Mike's shop and he does a boat for me, there's a certain expectation. But if I go to Dustin's, there's a different expectation. You want all of your services to come out with your particular flavor. And that's the hardest part about training employees, as well as making sure your service offerings aren't doing those things like, well, they just keep adding stuff on the top.
Yep.
Well, there's a fine line between an add-on and doing work for free. And you've got to be able to level that off and make sure that you are, number one, you're taking care of your people, your employees, you're paying all your rent, and you're taking care of your customers. That's the big juggle, right? You got all those balls in the air all the time, and you can't focus on just one of them. You cannot just focus on your own back pocket, or you're going to lose employees, you're going to lose customers. But the same is true. You can't focus just on your customers, or you're going to lose employees. You're going to lose your building. You're going to lose your wife, your husband, whatever.
Yeah, Mike and I talked about this on Wednesday about consistent quality, and you mentioned like they expect the same hamburgers, kind of like McDonald's. You expect it to taste like it does here at Mobile versus Wisconsin, right? And it's because they have a process, in place, and this is how we do what we do. And I think that processes allow you to build consistency, because if things go wrong or change, like you can identify where it's at in the process. And that also, the first thing that I tell people when they come talk about hiring is, are your processes defined? Like, do you have if you bring somebody in new, can you have them do the same thing you do? Maybe they don't do it quite as good, but can they essentially do the entire operation start to finish just like you do? And if they can do that, then you can control somewhat of quality. But the process is where you start at, and it's not hard. You can set up a camera and record yourself doing it. And, now thankfully to ChatGPT, you can just run that stuff through it, and it's going to it's going to save you tons of work. I'll never forget when EasyN years ago decided we were going to develop our SOPs, right? And this was maybe a year or two into business. Painstakingly went through every detail of what we done and hand wrote it, then typed out, this was, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, and wrote all this stuff out. Now you do it in ChatGPT in 30 seconds. And it's man, this is amazing. So there's no excuse, to an owner operator now to not have a definitive SOP for each thing they do. And that's not just the service. That should be your customer experience. That should be your sale. That should be your marketing. Each department should have, this is how we do it. Even in your accounting, the way that we pay our bills, the way that we, assign our, or update our QuickBooks, whatever the things are that you're doing, define how you do those things so you can, you can remain consistent, and then you can train somebody else.
Yeah, I love that. So let's go back to
address Mike, because Mike read a comment. He said, I meant things like chip repair. Headers to standard. Everybody gets those freebies to solidify. I meant extra things like additional services. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where each business has to define what are those extras. Paint touch up, wheel repair. When we, I'm about to say, back in the day when
it's like I used it back in the day.
People used to stand down the wooden wheels on a Model A. So the thing about it is extras can be anything that you don't normally do, right? So chip repair. People were just detailers, right? Or they were just wheel repair. And then all of a sudden this trend came of, we're going to do everything. And now people need to look at that and say, are you really going to do anything? Because you can still do chip repair. It's just that you're going to contract it with somebody that does it. You're going to bring in the chip repair guy, and you're going to mark it up by 10 or 15 bucks. That guy gets paid, you get paid, and you don't have to spend the time doing it.
That's right.
So figure out what those extras are that aren't really making you profitable, right? And then that's where you decide whether you're going to do it as a contractor or whatever.
And then double down on what does. So if you take something out, then double down on what does. Go ahead.
We talked about at my shop, like PPF, for example. Every detail that comes in to do the door cups takes us like 10 minutes to do all the door cups. And what it does is it opens up for that next service. Like, hey, you put that PPF on my door cup. Where else can you put this? Right.
Yeah.
So just little things like that, whether it be the tail light or, PPF, of doing something real simple, takes $2 and 10 minutes of my time on every detail that comes through. So
right.
One thing we love.
It saves you from the next time they come in for a detail of having to get in there and detail in the door cups.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's a win-win.
Yeah. We love to add in windshield coating, and that's someone that's on the fence about a coating. If we toss in a windshield coating, say tell us how it performs, see if you like it. And the next time they're back in, they're getting a coating, man. And so that's just one of those things that if we got somebody on the fence, we feel like they're probably going to be a coating customer at something, we'll throw in the windshield and just say, hey, we did this thing. Take check it out. Tell us how you love it. It's visual for them. They see it all the time. So sorry about that, Jody. Didn't mean to
I love that, and I like Paolo. We mix between subbing and doing ourselves, but offer as many services as we can.
Yeah,
right? If you have somebody that's a good partner that offers a service, and you guys have good, collaboration with each other, man, it's a great way to extend your services, extend your business, and better serve your customers. So I have a question. It's like, Rod and I, we've been working together since 2009. Actually, before that, when we worked at another software company, you guys have been working together for a long time. And I know you guys are really big on mindset, making goals. So I'd like you guys to talk about how you've learned how to work together, how you've learned to lean into that, but also how do you deal with the conflict, right? Because it sounds like maybe you had a little bit of a passionate meeting yesterday. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that.
First
they both go,
look, we fight all the time intentionally, so that way it's not rare. Like, no, so that way when it's real, like it doesn't even matter. We really don't argue at all. Actually, we both give each other a really hard time. And we know kind of when to back off of each other a little bit too. And so we're extremely at the end of the day, we have one goal in mind, and that's to better serve our customers. And like, that sounds so cliche, but that's such the truth. Okay. And so like, if you have a better way to do that, then let's do it. And that's the way they go about it. But setting goals and plans is so important because it keeps the guardrails up on where you could get off track. And, we had to learn how to do that. I mean, you got to understand, we took over a company, mid-season last year. It's like, figure it out. And how do you set goals for something you've never done before? Yeah. And so, like we had, so now we're in here. Now we have a team. Now we have made decisions. Now we understand what to do. And so as we plan for 26, like we really have good goals and plans and not just try to crash the plane, but we can actually maybe fly it a little bit. And so it's, it's fun, but juggling it, it really comes easy to us. We kind of have our defined roles. And we try to stay in that realm. We make sure that we're not tiptoeing into each other's lane, at least without announcing it, So that's my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we do a really good job. We are both really good at holding each other accountable for our goals. We put them goals together, and, and one thing, like for me, it is about manifestation and mindset, and that was something that we manifested on a run 4 years ago. Him and I, when we were running, we were like, we're going to buy IGL. We were kidding, but we did it. But even
what were we thinking?
This is my screensaver on my phone. That's my vision board. That's every day I wake up to. Every time I look at my phone, I get to see IGL's on there, Apex is on there, that Michael Jordan rookie card that I'm going to own someday. Everything's just on there all the time. But that's how we are. We will put a goal in place, and honestly, and there's a lot of individuals like this. But if you tell us we're not going to be able to do it, we're going to do it. I would have never thought the day. I would have never thought the day that Dustin and I ran the marathon together, and I was, he was sick, and I'm just telling him like, hey, you should just go to the vehicle, do whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going, because there's something inside of me. So I'm not going to let this thing, I might not beat everybody at this, but I'm going to finish this thing. And that's really what this is about, is we're going to finish what we started. We came in here, we're going to finish it, whether it be, we decide we're going to, pass it on to somebody or quit 20 years from now, but we're going to finish what we started. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. So,
and I think that is really, like my wife calls it stubborn, like literally you're the most stubborn person I've ever met. But that is part of it is stubbornness, but part of it is just drive and determination.
I was say driven.
You don't need to be an asshole about it, but you have goals and you say, look, what is the goal here? Let's remember what the goal is. Because we have 2 other owners. We get into some pretty spirited conversations ourselves. Yeah. And what we found over the last going on 17 years together is that there's times when we may be having a really good conversation back and forth. We're both passionate about it, but I have to remind people we're on the same team, right? I agree with you, but we had this conversation the other day about something yesterday. And I said, look, I agree with you, but we need to do it the right way. We need to make sure that we're checking all the boxes and then knowing those roles and being able to step out of them. Like right now, if you sent me a legal document, Dustin, Jody's going to go, Rod, look at it. Because I look at every letter. I look at all the spaces. I look at everything about that document because I want to make sure that we're covered and the other person. Right. It's about a mutually beneficial agreement between 2 people. That's what any business is, whether it's a customer, your employees, your wife, your kids, mutually beneficial agreement. And when that is not mutually beneficial to one party, that's when that relationship ends.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
and I was thinking about something because I know you guys are big. You're very driven by mindset, goals, pushing yourselves to the next level. Years ago, I took on the challenge of doing my first ultra marathon along the Continental Divide between Idaho and Montana. And it was a 50K, and we're climbing from 4.5K to 10.5, right? Ooh. Big climb. And I got 15, 17 miles in. And dude, I mentally and physically was just done. I just like, what the hell did I do? Right. And I'm like, I can't, there's no way down other than down or up and over. Right. And so I'm like, dude, you're not in a race. You're on this journey. So how many people get to see this view? So I literally sat on the cliff edge of Idaho looking into Montana, this beautiful valley. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just on a journey. I changed my socks, got some snacks in me, and I just sat there and just enjoyed the moment. And I think we as business guys don't ever take the time. We're so driven. We're so trying to build, and we're consumed and worried and excited that we never stop and go, look how far I've come. Mm-hmm. And right about that time, man, this ultra marathon runner, Jake, comes running by and he goes, Jody, you're here? Oh man, that is so awesome. Right. And I could have easily gotten discouraged because he was doing the 100K and was passing me.
Oh man.
But that little moment of, dude, you're doing great. I'm so glad to see you here. Man, the rest of the race was awesome. And it was actually more challenging because I had to run through a scree field. And I don't know if you know what a scree field is, but it's like taking Legos and throwing them on a mountain type. They're all boulder sized. And you're running through it for 3.5 miles. Right? I still had that ahead of me. And so
go ahead.
If you can take the time to step back, but also look forward, right? And that's kind of what we were talking about. It's like step back, but look forward. So what were you going to say, Dustin?
Yeah, thinking about people watching you do that race, right? Everybody on the outside, they're going to think about how you should have done it different, how you should have been more motivated, how you should have ran a little faster, how you should have taken more breaks. They're all going to have an opinion of how you should have ran that race, how they would have run it better. And business is no different. We have, and flee to social media, it's exacerbated, because everything you do is in a magnifying glass, you know, and that, but that's double-edged sword, right? We live by that because that drives our business. But everybody's going to have an opinion of the way that you should do things, or they would have done it better or worse or whatever. But the reality is we're running a race, right? And we're going to get to the end, you know, however we can. And, you know, and I think that's just the mindset has to be like, it's just like any other business too, is like, you got to want it worse than you want to breathe, like Eric Thomas said, and you have to, and it's going to be hard. Just like in detailing in December and January, when there's nothing coming in and you're pulling your hair out and you're in the fetal position in your living room crying, and how are you going to pay the bills? We have those same challenges and we cry those same tears. And you know, this thing, as you know, great as it has been with Joel and Jeff, we have to solve new problems, and we've faced new adversity, and we have to solve those problems.
Yeah.
And so, here we are, just, you know, chugging along.
I think the other thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think the other thing you got to remember is, you know, we all run a race, right? Or let's talk about the distance of the race. Whether we run it or we walk it, it's the same distance.
Yeah.
We just want to finish it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we run it or walk it. We're just going to finish it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the problem there is, and that's perfect. Exactly what I was going to say is, you don't let anybody else tell you what your finish line is or what your view of success is. I saw a post. I don't even remember who it was from. I don't even care. But it was like, if your shop's not making this many $1,000s a day, what are you even doing? You have no idea what my market is. You have no idea where I live. I know people that live in towns with less than 300 people, and they're not going to make $3,000 a day. But their idea of success is different than mine, than yours. And I think that's the one thing people need to remember is you're on a journey in life as well. And if you alienate everybody and you piss everybody off because your end goal is to own a Ferrari and have that much money, you're pushing everything else aside. You've got to enjoy the journey, even the ups and the downs. When Jody and I can look back at some of the low points, right? There are times when we started this business out and Jody and I didn't take a paycheck for the first 6 months.
For 9 months.
Yeah, we were not taking paychecks. And that was hard. Our wives were looking at us going,
what are
how
you
long
doing?
is this going to go on? Because this ain't good. Then we look at some of the things that are real highs, right? Real high-end moments. And you've got to enjoy those and look at it as if, look, at the end of the day, the four of us might be sitting on a front porch somewhere in a rocking chair talking about our lives. And we may talk about what our career was, but I can guarantee you what we're going to talk about is Dustin's daughter and the success she has, and Mike's kids and what they're doing now, and Jody's life and my life. And man, this one time I did this race and all. It's not going to be, man, I made money, because that's a short conversation. That's a real short conversation.
Yeah.
So
and I want to go back to my story because I see this in a lot of it, and it correlates to what Rod just said. It's like it would have been very easy for me to get discouraged instead of encouraged by Jake passing me.
Yeah.
Right. And I could have despaired by comparing my journey with his instead of just running my own journey and celebrating where I was. And when you can step back and celebrate the journey that you're taking, dude, it makes it so much sweeter.
Yeah.
Just makes it sweeter.
And it's so hard. It's so hard. You know, hindsight's 20/20, and we all know what we should do, and you all got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And so like we as business owners have to make that decision and enjoy. And you know, and then part of it, you know, that's really played a huge impact in my life in the last few years is faith and just believing that we keep trying to do the right thing, and these things will you know solve themselves. And you know, there's always gonna be another problem to solve. Is everything always the end of the world? Like, because once we solve this problem, you know, there's another one right behind it. So like, why, you know, is it really the end of the world?
And that problem is preparing you for the future problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Amen. So I love that. So guys, we're coming up on an hour. We could easily go another hour.
Oh, yeah.
So what's ahead in 2026?
Yeah, man, we just, you know, want to keep pouring into the industry. You know, we want to make sure that, that we're supporting the industry that's supported us through software, through detailing, through the code, selling codes. Like we want to continue doing that. And I think that just a harder look at the way that we can do that. I think that's a primary focus of ours. And lots of other things. Mike's going to tell you a bunch of new products and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you that I just want to keep building and supporting and keep refining.
Yes, sir.
What you got, Mike?
Yeah, I can't let the cat out of the bag, but there will be some.
Come on, we saw the fingers.
That's because I'm excited, but there will be very soon. There'll be some new products coming up.
Nice.
But like Dustin said, just support. I think all of us in this room, and there's a lot of great people in this industry. We want to see the detailer succeed. Because we all shared that passion and still share that passion,
right.
Whether we've owned shops or we've been connected in one way. So just being able to support people. And that's really why, I'll mention now, like we started the Detailer's Leap, we wrote a book, to just help the detailer pivot and be able to help them understand why it's important. And, we're looking forward to putting some business classes together this next year. We got our training curriculum, and we've done more online classes for people that can't travel because maybe somebody wants to pivot and they just can't, afford to travel and everything else. So we're working on a lot of really, really neat stuff. And I think 2026 is going to be it's going to be an awesome year. I'm going to manifest that.
We should collaborate on some of that stuff.
And I think there's one thing I wanted to throw out there right before we leave is that if people are dealing with we were talking about this a minute ago, the ups and the downs, literally, if you create an LLC and you go to a bank and you have a decent business plan, you can get a $50,000 line of credit with not a whole lot of collateral. And that can help cover you through those slow times. I can't emphasize enough how you need to have somebody financially behind you to help you succeed. Look into those things. I know that Dustin is a big proponent of this stuff. We can do
absolutely
a series on that. Mike,
absolutely.
So it's probably the most boring part, but it's the part that everybody talks about is the business side of things. But you've got to learn those tricks and tips to keep yourself going.
Yeah, you do, and I really appreciate you saying that, because a lot of people look down on that kind of stuff, and in reality, that's what's needed to be. That's what's needed. You've got to be able to float those times, and it gets tough, But just know that we've all survived and lived through every hard time. We're all, every one of us that are watching this.
That's not a bad thing. I learned
that's
this.
a badge of honor,
man. A CFO of a greater than $80 million a year company. And that's how they do it. So anyway,
it's good. So guys, make sure you connect with the dynamic duo, Mike Carlin, Dustin Jackson. They're all over socials. They have a weekly podcast. They're always looking to help you elevate. And please, man, if you guys have not subscribed to the show, go out to YouTube, subscribe, give us a like, share, all that fun stuff. And of course, we are the only player in town that has 2 CRM options for you. So depending on how your business rolls, we will fit you into the right one that not fit the software for you will fit you in the right place. So anyway, we're super excited. It's been an amazing 2025. We have, like Rod said, 3 more episodes. Next week, we have Sheldon to talk about Mobile Tech Expo. And then we have Owner's Pride. Damon Gray is going to be coming on.
And then we have
then we have a special edition on New Year's Eve. Paolo is going to be on. So
I love Paolo, man.
Kicking off the new year with us. We have a great month lined up for you. Thank you guys so much. And we will check you same time, same bad channel just next week.